Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Ariel Helwani Meets. We're being joined by the one and only, the inimitable, the incomparable Bianca Belair, one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling today. And we're here in Nashville, Tennessee, her home state. This is a really big deal. It's great to talk to you, great to have some time with you. And actually, we saw you earlier today. There was this big tryout. And I was wondering, because you were there, and there's all these fresh faces, all these youngsters, hopefuls, if you will, trying to get to where you are. You were in their shoes not that long ago. To be here in Tennessee, to watch them green, as they say in the business, a little bit uncomfortable. What are you thinking as someone who is now, and I know you haven't made it per se, like you're still relatively young in this business, but champion, one of the biggest stars. When you're watching them, are you thinking about maybe how nervous you were when you were trying out your early days? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, when I walked in today, it brought back so many memories of being in their shoes, in a tryout, especially being like a collegiate athlete, coming in and not having a wrestling background, coming in and being completely overwhelmed, not knowing anything. I understood what they were going through and watching them do promos and grabbing the microphone. It's just really wild to see that, see them in their beginning stages and realize that, hey, there's possibly a future WrestleMania main eventer here. So it was really cool to be there. But I thought they did amazing, and I love the NIL program that WWE has now, because, there's a certain time after your collegiate career in college where you're trying to figure out what to do. You've been an athlete your whole life, and WWE may not even be on the radar. And for me, it wasn't. So I've had a very great career so far, but I could only imagine how fast-tracked it would have been had I had the NIL program. So it's really cool just to be there, witness them, being the first time them running ropes, and being able, hopefully in the future, to be like, I was at that tryout that you were at. Now you're main event at WrestleMania.
What was your dream? Like a well-documented track star, and you get the DM from Mark Henry and everything, kind of rolls on from there. But before all that happened, as you were leaving college, and obviously you can't be a track star forever, there's no real pros in that world. What did you want to do?
Well, even from the age of 5, I wanted to either be an Olympic gymnast like Dominique Dawes, or I wanted to be an Olympic track athlete. Like, I love FloJo, I love Gail Devers. That was my dream. So when I was running hurdles at the University of Tennessee, my dream was to still turn professional and run track and go to the Olympics. And that didn't work out for me. And so, I had to try to navigate, what is my life now without sports. I've been an athlete since I was 5. And so I got into CrossFit, which my brother showed me a video of these women with these amazing muscles and doing these amazing feats of strength. And I'm like, I can do that. And so I found my outlet through CrossFit. I was wearing these amazing outfits and sewing tutus and bows and grabbing the microphone and talking in front of the audience, because I've always wanted to be in front of an audience. And so when Mark Henry contacted me, it was like, I see a WWE superstar in you. Have you ever thought about it? And in my mind, I'm like, I watched it with my brother when I was younger, but not really. I never aspired to be a WWE superstar. And so when he got me the tryout, took me to tryouts, and I completely fell in love. And it's, looking back now, I wanted to be an Olympic track athlete or Olympic gymnast, and that didn't work out for me. But everything that I did in my childhood and playing sports all the way up into college led me to WWE. And so everything's coming full circle for me. Even being in Nashville, Tennessee for the tryout, we were at the Wild Horse Saloon, which my mom is from Nashville. That restaurant I used to go to as a kid with my grandmother.
Wow. And
so being there and being at a tryout where they had a tryout with fans, my very first tryout was with fans. So it was like a full circle for me. So really, it's just like all the pieces fell in place for me.
When I do these interviews, have these conversations, never like to make it about me, but I feel like we have something very much in common that I still can't live down. When I was in high school, going into the 10th grade, I changed schools 3 times. I moved to one school, and then I moved back to another school, and then I decided I didn't like that school, and I went to another school. It was a very confusing time in my life. The reason I bring this up, as you can probably guess, and it's a little bit different because it was a little more prolonged, you went to 3 different universities, right? First it was South Carolina, then Texas A&M, then Tennessee.
Yep.
Can you explain why sometimes 2 is common, 3 is somewhat uncommon.
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
Well, I went to the University of South Carolina. It was a coach there that was known as like the hurdle guru. So I went there I wanted to be an Olympic hurdler. So I was like, let me go to the school where the hurdle guru is. And for so long, my identity was so attached to track. And my freshman year, I just struggled so much mentally. I was struggling with the eating disorder secretly in high school. And so when I got to college, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to be healthy. And I just had a very unhealthy relationship with food. And so I gained 15, 20 pounds. I was running a whole second slower in the 100 hurdles, which is a lot, almost 3 seconds slower in the 400 hurdles. And mentally, I just wasn't able, or physically, I wasn't able to get back to where I was. And so I struggled. So I transferred. From there, I went to Texas A&M.
And that was after 1 year?
And that was after 1 year,
okay.
My freshman year.
Did you blame how you were feeling on the school? Like, why did you feel like you needed to leave?
Well, I was going through it hard, very mentally.
Okay.
I had a coach that was very big on body image and very big on losing weight. And I was just so stressed out with my body that I would go to track practice where in South Carolina it was almost 100 degrees. I would wear sweatpants because I didn't want him to comment on how big my thighs were. So very just self-conscious, and it just wasn't a good place for me. I was put on depression medication, sleep medication, where I just mentally, I felt like that wasn't a safe place for me at the moment. And I was hiding all of this from my friends and from my family. Nobody knew I was going through this really but my coach, and at the time the doctor that was prescribing the medication. So I had all these feelings. I wasn't able to communicate with anyone. And so I just wanted to run away from that environment, not realizing I was carrying it all with me to Texas A&M, which is why I was unsuccessful there. Texas A&M, amazing program, amazing coach. Coach Vince Anderson at the time, he was the one that, at my lowest point pulled me from the track team and told me, you can't compete until you get yourself together mentally, because this is more important than what you do on the track. And
how did he know you were struggling?
It got to the point where I was put into a psychiatric hospital. It got that low.
Wow.
And I was still hiding it, and that's when everyone found out. And so he was the one that, once I got out, he said, you can't come back until he made me go see a psychiatrist. He was like, you have to get yourself together mentally, because that's what's more important. And he was the first person really that put my mental health above anything else. My parents, I was able to finally open up to my parents and be vulnerable to them. And that was like the one big major step to my recovery with everything. And so I could have stayed at Texas A&M, but I decided I needed to go home and rely on my family and really just start over. And at that point, I decided I didn't want to run track anymore. I'm finished with track. I felt like it ruined me. That was my downfall, because once I was performing bad, I felt like I just had nothing. And so I went back home and weaned myself off of the medication, because I stopped my medication cold turkey, and you're not supposed to do that. So I did everything. I started doing everything the right way, opening up, being vulnerable, getting help, talking with someone, got myself together mentally, transferred to University of Tennessee, and then decided, once I got myself together right mentally, to walk onto the track team. And at the time, Heather Van Norman was the coach, and she was the person who gave me a third chance, because nobody wants to give you a third chance after you've transferred to your third school. Everybody's, we're going to give up on you. No, you can't get back. And I walked on. I wasn't able to compete for the team, but she told me, I'll train you for a whole year, even if you can't contribute to the team. And she's the person really that got me back on my feet and got me back into running on the track team and got me back into being an athlete. And then after her was Coach Sharon Couch afterwards, who got me back to running faster than what I was running in high school. So I've had all these amazing coaches along the way that got me back to where I needed to be in college.
How did you start to feel better? Like, what was the turning point for you?
Opening up and being vulnerable.
Wow.
When I was hiding it from everyone, I was just getting worse. So once my coach found out, once my parents found out, once I was became comfortable with being uncomfortable, not being ashamed of it, and just opening up and realizing like it's okay to not be okay sometimes, and just being vulnerable, because you can't get help until you're vulnerable and you allow people in and allow them to like help you. Because when you're hiding it, you're not allowing anybody to help you. You're just pushing people away.
And this was approximately 10 or so years ago, right? 10.
This was around 2000. My turning point was 2008, 2009.
Okay, so a little over a decade ago. Do you ever go through this again now? Like, does this ever pop up in your life?
I still have triggers. Like, I feel like it's a journey. It's not something that you just you get through and then you're over it. Like, I'm not going through it anymore. I've gone through it and I'm on the other side, but I still have my triggers. I still have my moments, but now I'm able to go to my husband. I'm able to go to my parents. I have outlets, whenever I start feeling very like not motivated to do anything. I know like, okay, something's going on mentally. I know that I can't perform physically if this isn't right, no matter how much I'm in shape, no matter how much I work out. So I have to have my outlets, whether it's sewing my gear or working out or telling myself like, okay, it's time to rest because you're doing too much. So I definitely still struggle with it now. You just learn how to cope with it more and how to get through it.
By the way, do you sew your own gear?
I do sew my own gear.
Everything?
Everything.
What?
Yes.
Wow, that is incredible. Is that common?
Is it common?
In WWE? I feel like
not very common.
Wow.
No.
Have you always done that?
I have always sewn since I was a little girl. When I was a little girl, when I ran track, I used to design and make a lot of our outfits for the relay teams. And when I did CrossFit, I made all my outfits, which is what really got me discovered by Mark Henry. And so that's really what got me into WWE. And now it's calming for me and makes me feel like I'm in control, and I like to just express myself creatively.
So you're just sitting there before a big pay-per-view, you're designing and wow, how long does it take you, like soup to nuts, the whole process?
If I'm just making like a regular basic gear, I can make it pretty much in a day.
Oh, wow.
But for like the premium live events like SummerSlam, it took me about a little bit over a week to make it. It's a little more intricate, and now I'm trying to push myself with using designs. Like, it's a lot of amazing, talented fans out there that make designs for us and drawings. And I never thought that I could do it because they're very complicated and intricate. And so I'm using a lot of designs now that I see to push myself more. I'm getting inspiration from other people that I admire. Like, I love Missy Elliott and Janelle Monáe and just other influential like fashionistas out there.
When you were in NXT, especially when you were starting to come up, it seemed like everyone was like, this is a can't miss prospect. She's going to be a star. She has everything, all that. You see the way, people like Triple H talk about you. When did you start to believe that this was all true?
I would say the Mae Young Classic.
Okay.
Because when I first came in, I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know how to do a headlock. I didn't know what a wrist lock was. I was trying to study matches, and I had no idea what I was watching. And I was constantly trying to prove myself, like trying to play catch up with learning the history of the business, with trying to prove that I belong here, even though I didn't come from the indies. So I was always dealing with imposter syndrome, right? But the Mae Young Classic, when I had the match with Kairi Sane, it's a picture of me with Triple H, where he's just pulling me aside and he's just pouring all these words into me, and I remember exactly what he said to me, and I always keep it to myself because that was the moment when it was like an out-of-body experience, when I felt like I'm finally walking in my purpose. And whenever you have that feeling, it's just a feeling that you can't describe, and I realized I was born to do this. This is what I was born to do, and I'm good at this, and I finally found what I'm supposed to do. And it was confirmation that I am good at this, and I'm going to just continue to pour myself into this, and I can't wait to see how far I go with this. And that was the Mae Young Classic.
You have an amazing connection with the audience, right? Like there's certain people that I can never imagine being heels. I feel like you're one of those people. You're always smiling. Little girls love you. The fans love you. Doesn't matter what age, right? Why do you think this is?
I think it's, I just go out there and I try to be unapologetically myself, and I'm all about just being the EST, and I really truly believe what I say and what I represent, and I know what it feels like to lose yourself and not believe in yourself, and then once I found myself, I'm like, I'm never letting this go, and I just want to spread that to everyone else. And I tried to be a heel at NXT. And so many times people would say, I don't know, you're just not anything that I wouldn't want my daughter to be. And I'm
right.
like, no, I can be a heel. I can be a heel. I can say that I'm the best, and I don't care if you don't like it. But it's just like, why would you care? Why would you be mad at anybody for having self-confidence? So
Right.
I don't know. That's my main goal, is to just make people feel something and inspire people. Like I always say, I don't want people to just watch me do 450s or a hair whip in the ring. When people think of my legacy, I don't want them to be like, oh, I remember that time she did the 450. I want them to be like, no, I remember that time at WrestleMania when I cried like a baby when she won, or I cried like a baby when she was in the ring, or I remember how she made me feel. And so that's just always my main goal, is to try to make people feel and connect with the fans and connect with little kids especially. I mean, I feel like I'm where I am now because of all the people that poured into me as a kid and were role models to me as a kid.
Who came up with EST, like that whole thing?
I did.
You did? Wow.
It was kind of just like a natural, I didn't really come up with it. It just naturally happened. Like I said, when I got into WWE, it felt like everything was just falling into place so easily. And that's what I was like, that's because this is what I'm supposed to do. I was talking with Mark Henry, and he had come to the PC. He's like, what do you want to be? What do you want people to see or think of when they see you? And that really made me think. And I was like, well, I feel like I'm kind of all over the place. I'm not just one thing. I'm multifaceted. Like, I'm not just strong. I'm also fast, and I'm very creative, and I'm this and I'm that. And it was just all over the place. And I remember doing a promo where I'm like, I'm not just strong, I'm the strongest, but I'm also the roughest, and I'm the fastest, and I'm quickest, I'm the toughest, I'm the greatest, and I'm the smartest, and I'm the best. And I was like, wait, all those things in an EST, and then EST rhymed with NXT, so it became the EST of NXT. And so it all just naturally happened in a promo, one promo that I did on a live event. The very first promo I did on a live event, the EST came about, and it's stuck ever since.
You mentioned your husband, the great Montez Ford. Do you remember the first time you ever saw him?
Yeah. The first time I ever saw him was at the Performance Center, and it was a show, one of the Coconut Live events. And I saw him at the time, my friend. I was like, oh, that's a beautiful man. Keep him away from me, because I like him and I don't know him. And then he got injured and went away for a few months. I never saw him again. And we had a dinner one night where a bunch of the WWE superstars, we just met up for dinner. He walked in, and I was like, nudging my friend, like, he's here. And ever since that night, we just started talking, and we never stopped talking. And we never spent the day apart from each other. And then we moved in together, and we were like, did we even talk about this? And then we got engaged a year later, and then married a year later.
Wow. And you have this incredible relationship where it seems like you're very supportive of each other. I was lucky enough to be backstage at WrestleMania after your match with Becky, and he, like you said, he's the first one there. And I would assume you return the favor, right? You're there. When you're maybe having incredible success as champion, and he's not quite realizing that just yet, I'm sure he has great lofty goals. How is that on the relationship?
We are each other's biggest supporters. I mean, it's all about moments for us. Like, winning the title is one thing, but it's all about moments. And for us, this WrestleMania, it was the first WrestleMania that we actually got to have together in front of a crowd. And he got to be there for me the first night, and I got to be there for him the second night. So it's all about having these amazing moments. But what I will say, I'm very blessed to have a husband that is so supportive of me, especially being a female and having a successful female, having a successful career, and kind of doing it more so before he does.
Right.
But I'm very blessed to have someone who's just super supportive of that. But we both know, more so me, where I'm always pouring into him, like, listen, it's not a matter of if with you, it's a matter of when. And when it happens, it's going to be colossal for him. He's one of the most passionate people that I know, one of the most hardest working people that I know. He watched WWE growing up, so he's a huge part of my success. When I first came out, I was like, I don't even know where to start. He's like, watch this match, watch this WrestleMania, watch this person. So was a person who encouraged me to keep wearing the braid. And so I feel like when I have my success, that's his success. So when he has his success, that's my success. But we all know it's only a matter of when with him, not a matter of if.
You wanted to get rid of it?
No. I didn't want to get rid of it. I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. So I wore the braid once, but then I saw everyone else like with long flowy hair, and I'm like, but they look so beautiful, and I want to wear long flowy hair. And my husband was like, no, the first key to success here is to be unique and stand out. He was like, wear the braid. I'm telling you, keep wearing that braid. And he was like, if somebody comes to a show for the first time, they might not remember your name, but they will remember the girl with the braid. And I was like, you know what? That makes sense. And so that's why I kept wearing the braid.
You guys are living and breathing this business, and you're both at the top, and I agree with everything you said. Like, I feel like in a year he's going to be a champion, and you could just see it, right? Also, he's very big these days. He's like looking very, very healthy. Do you ever talk about anything else? I feel like when you're both entrenched in this, like dinner, lunch, breakfast, sleeping, like, is there anything else that you guys talk about that doesn't pertain to this?
We do, but I mean, WWE is such a huge part of our life that it's hard. I know I hear some people say when we go home, we turn it off. That's impossible for us. Like, we can't turn it off. I mean, we'll be watching a movie and see a fight scene, and that'll just somehow translate into WWE. So we talk about WWE all the time, but I mean, we have so much other stuff going on too. We have the kids, we have our family, and we make sure that we make time for other things outside of WWE to keep ourselves balanced. I mean, we have common interests and other interests that aren't so common. Like, he's gotten me into Marvel and into movies and into shoes and music, and I've gotten him more so into like DIYs and doing stuff around the house. And so we always make sure that we make time for other things as well. A
lot of changes in WWE right now, and you can almost feel the positivity, like seeing the optimism. Getting to speak to Triple H for a few minutes earlier today, it seems like everyone is very excited. I know you have a great relationship with him as well. Can you describe that? What is it like? I know it's a kind of a fresh story with Vince retiring, but do you sense that same sort of like, okay, new chapter, optimism, excitement? Do you feel that as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a new chapter. It's exciting. I mean, change is always hard. For me, change has always been hard for me, but I think that with WWE, especially with the pandemic, we learned to be so adaptable and just roll with the punches and make sure that everything's going to be successful. I have a great relationship with Triple H from NXT. He was there with me from the very beginning, the first person that had faith in me and put me on that big stage. At the time, Mae Young Classic was a huge stage for me. He's been there through my progression. There would be no Bianca Belair without Triple H. He was there when I won the Royal Rumble, when I won main event at WrestleMania. So it's change is hard, but I'm excited, and it's really cool to have Triple H here, who was there with me at the very beginning, and now he's going to be there with me in the future for all of my other big accomplishments in the future.
A lot of the fans online are debating, now that Triple H is in charge, who's going to come back. Do you have a preference? Do you have a pick, a vote?
I don't have a preference or a pick or vote. I will say I think maybe things are going to get shaken up, and I'm just excited to see what's going to happen. You know, it's a change, so we'll see. I'm interested now, so we'll just have to see what happens.
Two last things. Is there anyone in particular that you haven't wrestled or worked with, done a long program with, that you're really excited to work with?
Yeah, I would say I feel like on Raw and SmackDown, Rhea Ripley, we almost had it where, you know, we were going to have a match and then things got switched and got changed. So, but I will say, I think that I've always seen that as like a WrestleMania type of match and WrestleMania type of feud. So I think that everybody would be excited for that. I feel like we're both at the forefront of a new generation of women in WWE, and it'd be really cool to see us go into a program in a long feud together. And I'm excited to restart and finish my feud with Bayley. We never got to finish our feud.
What would you say to someone who perhaps is watching this and is in a place in their life like you were in college? Success couldn't be further away from their mind, right? They think that nothing's going to go their way, it's not going to turn, and look at you, like you have made it times 1,000.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who couldn't even believe that, you know, good days are ahead, who's feeling down and watching you and wanting to be in your spot, dreaming of doing something like you're doing?
I would say it's easier said than done, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Just try to find moments where, remember to have fun. I know everything seems like it's a grind and it's hard right now, but you're going to look back and wish that you would have just had more fun in the process. And I kind of touched on it earlier that sometimes things that feel like a setback, it's just a redirection to get you to where, you know, your path is trying to take you to. And my thing is to keep moving forward, because you're either moving forward or you're not. A lot of people get stuck in they want to have it all figured out before they make the next move. Just move forward. And it might not be the best move or the right move, but it's pushing you forward to the right direction where you're supposed to go. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. Don't be ashamed if you're going through something. Open up, be vulnerable, and be willing to get help and talk to people.
Thank you so much. Congrats on all your success.
Thank
You're an
you.
inspiration. I have a young daughter myself. She has a little Bianca Belair toy. It's great.
I love that.
The toy, the necklaces and the earrings and everything.
That makes me happy.
You do incredible work, and it was great to talk to you. So thank you so much for the time. She is Bianca Belair. She's one of the faces of WWE. Enjoyed this very much. Hope you did as well. And you can catch her on BT Sport on Raw every single week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.